Hey everybody, Jason Creel, and I am not by myself today. As you can see, I've got a special guest here with his air traffic control headset on. So, some of you guys that whether watching live or watching on the replay may recognize John Pajak is with me. And John, first, thanks for being on here. We'll be standing room only with me and you both on here at the same time. So, but
Thanks.
appreciate you coming on. And so, for my sake and for the audience sake, we're going to do some introductory kind of stuff here, just so we know who we're talking about. But one thing I wanted to do for the people watching is like, I've been trying to do these regular on Monday night, and during the winter, I'll probably slow down a little bit. But people inevitably ask me questions about cool season turf and try not to make a fool out of myself. I usually just pass the question. So John you're in Indiana, is that correct?
Yep, Northwest Indiana. We're
Okay, close to Chicago.
real close to Chicago there.
Okay, so do you work in the Chicago market or not?
Well, depend. No, I don't. But a lot of people from Illinois and Chicago have moved into our area,
Okay,
so it's kind of like we do cater to them.
I
Um,
got you.
put it this way: all the good food places that are in Chicago have moved to Northwest Indiana now, so
I
it's kind of
see.
like little Chicago now.
I understand. So how far away are you from Chicago, like where you live?
Uh, I think it's 15 miles.
Oh, you're like super close.
We're
Okay.
we're we're like right up in the corner where Illinois and Indiana meet, and you got
Yeah.
Lake Michigan above there.
Yeah.
I'm only like 5 minutes from the border, and it doesn't take very long to get up into Chicago as long as
I
the
got you.
traffic's not bad.
Okay. And for the audience sake, what kind of grasses are you dealing with primarily?
We got cool season grasses, and the
Yeah.
most common that we're dealing with are Kentucky bluegrass. We do have tall fescue, but primarily Kentucky bluegrass and perennial rye.
Okay.
So a lot of our lawns up here are really Kentucky bluegrass, and then you got some, fescue and rye's thrown in there.
Okay.
In shady areas we have fine fescues, but they don't do so well in the direct sunlight.
Okay. And see, I again, I'm just not familiar with all the grass type. I know I've obviously heard of those, but like I don't. So some of those are more shade tolerant than others.
The fine fescues, like you got the like chewings fescues, and red creeping and things like that. Those are the ones that can tolerate the shade better. They're
Okay.
very very fine leafed
Yeah.
fescue.
I got you. I was just thinking like all cool season grasses were very shade tolerant, but I didn't.
It could,
Um, they
depends
grow
on
in their tree.
Yeah, it depends on your Kentucky blues. Most Kentucky blues love to full sun, but when it comes summertime, they'll be the first ones to go dormant if they're not
Okay.
getting enough water, or they just get too hot. They'll kind of go dormant as a protective measure.
Yeah.
Our tall turf type tall fescue lawns, or the ones that have it in there, they'll be okay. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever work if you work near the transition zone.
Like northern, maybe an hour north of me, you'll start seeing some of those type lawns.
Gotcha.
My area is like we just don't have it. I'm near Birmingham, but this
Okay. Yeah.
guy this guy posts. He's a regular on the channel, and he's actually early. Yeah, he shows up usually 5 minutes before we come out, and he says he's just getting in from work. So I guess with the time change, he is on time today. So appreciate it. And Michael says good evening and no life mold life lawn maintenance. I hadn't heard that name. Says hello. So you guys that want to post, John and I are going to keep talking. But you guys post your questions of whatever you want to ask me or ask him. Like I say I can help you with warm season stuff. John
Hmm.
helps you with cool season stuff. And on that, well, let me. You don't. You don't see like any zoysia lawns or anything in your air.
We Zoysia is funny because we have people that for a long time. I don't know if you're audience is still from like the magazine times when we thought got a lot of information out of the magazines, but in the backs of the magazines, like Popular Mechanics
Yeah.
and like the Handyman Guide or whatever, they used to have the Zoysia plugs that you could buy, and they would throw it out there saying, "Oh, these are great for lawns. It's low mow. It's low maintenance, everything." So we had people that would put those plugs in, and then the problem with Zoysia is that it can tolerate some cold weather, but it can't tolerate where I'm at how cold it gets.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like blended in there, and it's like a survivor. Like
I
there's
got
very few Zoysia lawns that are
you. Yeah.
in completely intact. But when we look at those, it's not that we don't think it's a weed, but we're looking at it and we're like, yeah, you could definitely tell that that doesn't belong here right now because it doesn't blend as well as it does. Like you could get some turf type tall fescues to blend well with a Kentucky bluegrass,
Yeah.
but when you have some zoysia lawns, they just don't blend very well. They stick
Yeah.
out like a sore thumb.
I got you. Yeah, I've heard people like in the Northeast that have Zoysia lawn, and they'll say like here we even get winter damage on it sometimes, but they'll say that they're like it's only green for like 3 or 4 months out of the year. Like it goes dormant. It gets cold and things
Right.
go dormant so early, and takes forever to turn green in the spring. Where
Mm-hmm.
here it green up in April, I guess, and stay green all the way till about now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I guess anyway. I was just curious about that.
No,
But if I had to think, two things I'm a little bit jealous of about cool season grass. Well, obviously the striping is pretty cool. We
mm-hmm.
just don't stripe our yards, but the other thing is like we all just you see these redo jobs where it's like the whole yard looks awful and y'all go in there and just kill it, and 3 weeks later it's like the perfect lawn, and that's just not realistic
Right.
for us. And I get people, whether it be customers or people on YouTube, and I'm out here working on yards. They're like, why don't you just kill it all and overseed it and fix it? I was like, that doesn't work down here. You can't just
Yeah.
go and throw some seed out and have a perfect lawn in 3 weeks.
Right.
Maybe I'm
Uh,
exaggerating to some degree, but
Exactly. I mean, you could throw out, perennial rye, which will do that. But the problem is, like, it perennial rye, once it gets too hot, it gets really stemmy and it'll go, it'll either die off or go dormant to a degree,
yeah,
and then it looks terrible. And most people don't have the patience or the skill set to, even when they have an irrigation system, to water their lawn as it's needed to for it
yeah,
to all fill in.
yeah,
Whenever I do like really I don't do too many overseed jobs. When I do like a renovation,
yeah.
it's usually done with Kentucky blue, and it takes 28 days sometimes for that grass to germinate.
Oh wow.
And so if you don't, sometimes we throw in like a perennial rye to just show that, hey, there's grass there and it's growing, or they might blend it with a tall fescue, a very high quality turf type tall fescue that's not going to, where the blades aren't going to get as thick as your thumb.
Yeah,
That's what K31 is to me, and that's it's a weed to me. It's not, even though it's a tall fescue, it's a pasture grass. But
yeah,
some people throw that in their lawns, and it's like, what happened? We got grass, but it's ugly. It looks like a weed. I'm like, it's not a weed. You planted the wrong type of grass, and
yeah.
the only way to get rid of it is to kill it and start over.
Yeah,
So,
I understand. All right, let's take a few questions here.
sure.
Gerald's has got a picture of his deer. Maybe he already shot one this year. It says, can you still fill in bald lawn with fescue in the spring without doing a complete renovation and be successful for the summer? Transition zone, Middle Tennessee. John, I'm gonna let you take that one. What do you think about? Do y'all throw more seed out in the spring too, or is that mostly a fall thing, or what do you think?
Fall for us, fall is the best time to seed. So
Okay.
when we say fall, we mean late August.
Oh man,
So
I still 100 here.
it's still hot. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
we're talking, anytime between August 15th to September 15th is the super optimal window in
Okay.
my area.
I
Even
got
though
you.
it still gets very hot, you got the soil temps are warm enough, and you will get enough germination before we get our first freeze, which generally comes in October.
Okay.
So you want those roots to get established during that time period. Some guys will do seeding in the springtime. It depends on what it is. If you have like a big bare dirt lot, then
Yeah.
yeah, throw out seed, but then prepare to seed again in the fall.
Okay.
Because with cool season grasses, you have a window to take the seed, but a lot of times what happens is as the roots don't have enough time to develop well enough to stand the heat that is coming in the summertime. So you'll get some loss, you'll get some kill going on there. So things may not fill in like you expected them to.
Yeah.
But then once the highest or the hottest and driest parts of the summer are over, and we start getting into late August, and throughout September, then you have that's the best opportunity to get your seed to really pop.
Okay. And the times may be slightly different for him in Tennessee. I mean, he may need to seed a little bit later, and
Yeah, I
maybe some early
s-
September to late early October or something. Can push
right.
the calendar back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we're way up north, right up next to Lake Michigan. So our climate's a little bit different down in
Yeah.
Tennessee. Yeah, you're probably anytime during September would probably be a great time
Yeah.
for any kind of cool season transition
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah. If you just sometimes you just look at the calendar and you can see like, okay, it's cooling off. If it's still in the
Right.
mid 90s, you probably need to hold off a little bit. But and Gerald's did a good job here by letting us know what kind of grass he's and where he lives. So if you have a question, if you can tell us like where you live, sometimes that's helpful. No Life Mo Life says, "How's the GIE? I plan to go next year. How many years have you been going to the expo? And now they're changing the name on us here, so it's now the
Yeah,
Equip
we're going to be
Expo.
equipped next year.
Okay.
2016, I think, is when I started going down,
Yeah.
and every year except for last year,
Yeah, that's
it's
probably
been.
about the same time I went. And I remember maybe that was the year you came up to me and you said, "Hey, I'm the gravel back mechanic."
That's
Because
right.
I think John is you're probably one of the earliest commenters on my channel that I remember. Because me and you both been on YouTube for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been on, I don't know, maybe since I don't even know 2010 or nine or
Yeah.
so, I don't know, something around there. But I said you're one of the first ones I remember regularly commenting on the channel.
Hmm.
And then when I remember you met me, I was like, I didn't know who John was, but I knew who the gravelback mechanic was because he comments on my videos all the time. So
Right. It's kind of
um,
funny. That's how a lot of the YouTube guys, uh, they're just like, "Oh, that's who you really are."
yeah,
It's like,
that's right.
yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
right.
me.
But as far as his questions, what would you have to say? It sounds like he said I plan to go next year, so I'm kind of assuming he's never been before. So how do you explain it? Somebody hasn't been, and what would you say was kind of the highlights of it for this year?
See, I like man. I'll tell you, the past few years, like I barely have time to look at the show. I'm always running around,
Yeah,
doing event stuff. Yeah, it's more for me. It's the meeting up with people I haven't seen since
yeah,
the last GIE
that's right.
because it's all the manufacturers and everybody. I know most of the CEOs and stuff, and I'm like, hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah, that's right.
But the show is. I mean, for me, it's always been a good thing because one, yeah, you get to see all the new gear and goodies and things like that. And then when you start getting deeper into it and you start going, well, those machines or the mowers or the fertilizer machines, that's cool and all, but I need parts. And set up uh, you could even set up accounts where you start getting into the nitty gritty, all the springs and bolts and herbicides and pesticides. You could find meet and greet with those people. Um, I don't know about you, but it's even though it seems like you have a lot of time and it's only in one building,
Yeah.
it's like you could never see everything all at once.
No, I definitely don't go through all the booths, and I tell people all the time. So to me, I go just about every year, and I think it's great. But I tell people at least go one time if you're in the issue. Just go to be. It's kind of eye opening. I had a couple friends locally that went this year for the first time, and I think they had a good experience. But yeah, I mean, it's a unique thing. I didn't realize that. I think they were saying it's the sixth largest trade show in the country
Yes.
or world or something, and of course they're trying to continue to grow it. So.
Hmm.
Pretty impressive
I
feat.
think
But yeah, we had a
I,
good time for
I
sure.
think 2022 is going to be it's an outstanding year because from what I know about the numbers from 2019, without skipping a beat, they basically made the same number. They had more in attendance in 2021 than they had in 2019, and they
Yeah,
skipped a year.
yeah, that's right.
Usually, places lose momentum when
Yeah,
they shut down like that,
that's
and
right.
they didn't.
All right. No Life Mo Life says grass is still green here. Good long season in Southeast Texas. Yeah, I bet. So, what kind of grass do you have in Southeast Texas? I don't know if it's Bermuda or St. Augustine or what you have down there. Live in Hayden. Now he's saying Hayden. That's a town like 30 minutes from me. So I,
Hmm.
I know where he knows I live close by. So living Hayden at Bermuda grass, got a grassy weed. I think have decided it's the grass can't seem to kill it. Was wondering, um, yeah, I think you got a good plan, Larry. That's kind of the
Yeah,
grassy weeds that, especially the ones you can't identify. Once your Bermuda goes dormant, you can spray it with glyphosate. It's if you're gonna blanket app on it, I do 32 ounces per acre. But if it's just a little bit, just kind of spot treat it. I mean, worst case scenario, you leave a
just get
damaged
a
spot, and
little hole.
yeah, I mean, Bermuda fills in extremely quickly in the summer. So I think that's from a other chemical. I mean, tribute totals are good, and Celsius are both good on grassy weeds.
Which
Antonio says, "Go ahead,
you
John."
the Celsius and stuff, you can't use that in cool season grasses.
Yeah, well, I
If
do know that about that. I do know like pretty much everybody and their brothers uses Celsius here, and you can't use Celsius. You can't use certainty. We use certainty a lot
hmm
for as a sedge product, basically.
right,
Like you're using Pro Sedge and Dismiss and all that. And I was like, shoot, I use certainty a lot. It's good on Kalinga. It's good on nutsedge, but it also knocks out
it's
some.
it'll
It'll
smoke Kentucky bluegrass.
no, I mean, I use it regularly in the wintertime because we'll have our lawns are dormant, and then you have these bright green clumps of. And I'll be honest, I still not good at telling the difference if it's a ryegrass clump or a fescue clump, but Celsius works on both of them, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Whichever one it is, it'll. Yeah, I use that. I use there's a product we use a lot. I'm assuming y'all don't use it. It's called Katana, and we use it.
No, yeah, we can't use that here.
It like you just spray. Like I oversee my Bermuda lawn with ryegrass, and when I want to get rid of it, you spray with Katana. I
Yep,
mean, it just annihilates it. It's just drops a bomb on it. So
exactly. If
you know,
if for you and for those that are interested in like trying to identify between if you're in cool season grasses and you're trying to identify between Kentucky bluegrass and say like a rye or a turf type tall fescue, one
yeah.
thing you could do, and this is you could take a blade of the grass and the Kentucky bluegrass has a boat shaped, it's like a canoe shaped tip. So
Okay.
if you run your finger up the blade of grass and you split that, and then it turns into like basically like an M shape, that's Kentucky bluegrass.
Okay. So do you have to do that kind of stuff, or when you see those kind of grasses, can you just kind of eyeball it and say, "Oh, that's Kentucky blue," or "That's fescue"?
I mean, most of the time I could just look at it and go, I know that's a Kentucky blue versus
Okay.
a perennial rye or a tall
Yeah.
fescue. There have been some new varieties of turf type tall fescue that have blended the blade width and the color are very similar to Kentucky bluegrass.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to figure out like just for my own benefit going, wait, what kind of grass is this? It's not going to matter too much, but I'm like, "Oh, this is a Kentucky Blue cultivar, or this is a
Yeah.
turf type tall fescue cultivar. It's not that important really. It's just once you know how it is. Once you start getting deeper
Yeah.
into the lawn, you just start going, well, this is what this is.
Yeah. I hate not knowing stuff. I hate looking at grass, don't know what I'm looking at.
Sure.
Antonio says, can I blanket spray herbicide to perennial ryegrass, which contains Florida pulsey, I guess that's how you say it, and chickweed? Do y'all deal with that Florida weed in Indiana?
We don't have it.
Okay.
If unless it has a different name that I'm not aware of, but
Yeah.
chickweed, we do get chickweed up here.
Yeah.
Um, so depending on what kind of where you're at and what you're going to spray, I mean, you can use let's see, for chickweed, I mean, you could use a 2,4-D product,
Yeah.
to just go after that chickweed. So, and it's not going to affect your perennial rye. It will, ryegrass will tolerate that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you do many blanket applications as far as herbicides? Because we do that at least 3 times a year. I mean, I do.
we Once you get a lawn dialed in, it's not as important. It's a lot easier to
Yeah.
not have the blanket spray.
Okay.
But if you take on a new lawn, like I've had plenty of lawns towards the middle of the year where we just get them,
Yeah.
and they didn't have any pre-emergent. They didn't have anything. Nothing was done until we
Yeah.
stepped in,
I understand.
and then you're playing. You're kind of doing damage control because you're like, okay, there's a lot of weeds here, and the temperatures are you're right at that like 85-degree mark where
Yeah.
it's kind of like, ooh, do I spray
Gotta
or
be, you gotta be
don't?
careful a little bit.
You really have to be careful when you're doing blanket sprays, and the temperature and the wind are extremely important when you're going to go spray those, because some of the products, depending on whether it's an amine or an ester, the they're volatile with different conditions. So if you have
Okay.
high heat and you're trying to use an ester, it could uh, raise up and move over to a place that you didn't intend it to go, like say into a landscape bed, and smoke out a complete yeah, a complete
Yeah.
landscape bed.
I understand.
Um,
Well, that's interesting. Let's see. Do any of you do subcontracting work? If so, have you ever ran into a company that did not work out? Do you sub stuff out, or does anybody sub stuff out to you, or
I,
how's that work?
I'm usually the guy that gets
Yeah.
subbed, you know.
Yeah. Me too.
Uh, and if you I believe it's all in the contracting in a way, whatever your terms of service are with that, the better you could protect yourself. If everybody can protect themselves, then it's better off for everybody. If it's just a handshake deal, a lot of times those are the ones that go sideways,
Yeah.
because it's like, hey, yeah, can you spray all this? We got like 400,000 square feet of turf we need to get taken care of. Can you go ahead and spray that? And it's like, yeah, I'll pay you later. Well, hey, I need some terms here. you
Yeah.
know,
I understand. I had a situation where I was a mowing crew that's subbing out stuff, and I had more trouble getting paid from the another guy in the lawn business that I did the customer. Sometimes I try to, if it's just like a homeowner and they just want, I'm just like, let me just deal with the homeowner individually. That way, if
hmm
they fire me, you're okay. If they fire you, let's why. If there's, I understand on some commercial properties and stuff, they want it all included and everything. But I mean,
right,
sometimes it's like, can we just keep it separate? I mean, I don't understand the big, but yeah, if you got a situation where it's like a big company and they want to sub out all their spraying accounts to you, which could be, a lot of hundreds of accounts, then obviously the bigger it is, the more you'd want to have something in writing and
right.
protect yourself.
The only places I really ever had problems with were the property management groups that would, it's like, oh, you guys have to do this, and we're being subcontracted by another company. and we
Yeah.
have to work under their rules. And it's like you said, I would rather just do directly
Yes.
and be like, look, your HOA association, we'll deal directly with them, the property manager that takes care of that. I don't want to go through, Bob's landscaping company,
Yeah.
and we're subbed through them, and then we're like absolute, the property management group might pay Bob's one of the last guys to get paid, but then Bob's like, well, I'm not getting paid, so you're not getting paid, and
Yeah.
it just goes from there.
All right. Larry says, or this is the guy that lives down here close to me. Believe I have ryegrass in my Bermuda, just a little, can't seem to kill it. Well, we were talking about earlier using Katana or Certainty or Tribute Toll or Celsius or glyphosate when it goes dormant. All those would probably work.
Yeah.
No Life Mo Life says your videos have been helpful with the weed control since our grass is similar. All right. Brian Watson, Brian, have you met him? John, he lives in Georgia and he's a regular on the channel that anyway, he was just telling us it was good to see us at the GIE.
I am sorry if I need to see a face most of the time.
Yeah.
Because it's like I know like 40,000 Brian's.
Yeah, I know how it
but
is.
Brian, it was great seeing you at
recognize.
GAE. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, Brian came up and said hey to me, and I have known him for several years. So more than like you say, you see somebody once a year, and but I do appreciate the name tags on at the GAE because sometimes I see faces and I'm like, oh yeah,
Right.
I know who that person is. Would love to hear how you sell customers on spraying fall preem in October, November, and again in early January. It's so hard to convince them this is the most important applications. He's in Texas, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, I don't. I'm gonna try to understand the question here, but like for me, I'm not like selling each individual application to the customer. It's kind of like you sign up with me. It's like here's our 7-step program, and most of them don't even ask me what I'm doing. But I get the point. And I wish that all my customers would sign up in the fall. I would love to get their fall pre-emergent, which is a real important one for us, John, to keep like POA and stuff out. Like that would be awesome if everybody signed up then. Of course, they don't. They sign up in March and April and all that. But when I sign them up, I try not to have any conversations about which apps do they wanted me to do and which ones do they don't want me to do. It's kind of like, this is the program. And, in my mind, it's kind of like take it or leave it. But I don't word it that way. But so I don't know. Maybe I misunderstand the question, but
I'm kind of the same way with our programs. It's really not
not
a
negotiable
choice. It's not negotiable. It's just like, hey, you're going to hire us, and we're going to make your lawn beautiful, and that's it. I don't really get into the nitty gritty about it, even though when I send estimates out, I send out, some of our applications vary in price. It's not one price every month.
Yeah.
But there's a description there that we give them, and
yeah,
it's not like we're not upselling those types of things, because for our program, we want them to have a great looking lawn. That's why they called us.
That's right.
So it's just part of our program.
Yeah. So maybe I don't know. Maybe he's giving them too many options. Maybe you just say, hey, we'd love to take care of your lawn. It's 7 applications, 8 applications, whatever you're doing, and here's the price. And I would try to go about that way. Have you ever tried a pre-emergent for nutgrass? For example, Pennant Magnum. No, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with.
Is that like nutsedge or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about nutsedge, but I don't know if some of like the stuff you use in flower bed, like Snapshot and Freehand, and some of those kind of products supposedly, I think, give you a little bit of control on your nutsedge. But as far as lawns go, as far as what's labeled legally for a residential lawn, I'm not sure there's a lot of options. Now I know you can use I don't know if y'all ever spray like Dismiss in the springtime if you got a lot of Kalingas and I don't know, maybe yellow nutsedge, but it'll sort of burn it down early in the year to keep it at least less noticeable. But
Hmm. With the problem with nutsedge is you've got the nodules that are in the ground, and so you'll see it pop up,
yeah,
but that doesn't mean you could clear that out. But then there are some that stay dormant for years.
okay,
So you'll have like over say a 5-year period, you may not see any one year. You start seeing it pop up and you treat it and get rid of it, but then there's still some nodules that are in the
yeah,
soil that haven't popped up yet. One thing that I have used in it's not it doesn't it's really not a pre-emergent at all, but we've gotten good control with it, is using Vexus, which is a granular
yeah,
version, instead of having like say like Pro Sedge or um sedge hammer or something along those lines that we
mhm,
spray up north. um we can what's the combination that we use, like during the summertime? That's when a lot of the nutsedge will actually pop up. We're using like a combination of Sure Power for spot spraying things,
okay,
and we could I'll spray that nutsedge with it because it has sulfentrazone in it, just to kind of knock it down a little bit. It's not going to take
yeah.
it out, it'll
I
suppress it.
understand. Yeah,
But
we do the
then
same thing.
yeah, but then on top of it, I'll spread that Vexus, those granules in that location. So if you got a few pieces of yellow nutsedge coming up, and you sprinkle that in that general area, it'll help the nutsedge that hasn't quite emerged yet. It might be in its infancy and it's not sprouting up yet. But if we know that's a trouble area, using that combination's worked well for us.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of all hands on deck. Sometimes we just say, just you throw
Yeah.
everything at it and then burn it down and use, And there's, um, I've got a lot of sedge products and they all work to some degree.
Mhm.
Hi, I live in JC. I live in northern Idaho and bare spots on my lawn and it's turning winter. So would you say in Idaho is he too late seeding
It
now and needs to wait?
probably because they're further,
Yeah.
they're at the same level of at us, or they're higher as far as their freezing points. At this point, I would probably hold off. You can do dormant seeding, but you have to wait until the ground, there's no chance of that seed to germinate. So there's a chance that you could have some, like what people would call like Indian summer, where it would be like, 50, it'd be like 30 degrees for like 3 weeks straight, and then all of a sudden you get like a 60-degree day, or a 50-degree day. That would allow the seed to actually wake up, and then within 2 days it freezes again and it kills it. It's gonna be not gonna be good. I would, if you were to try to do any kind of dormant seeding, you have to wait until there's really like hard frost, the ground has frozen. So no matter how wet that seed gets, it's not going to have any chance of germinating until the soil temperatures get to, in the 50, 55, it's about 55 degrees, when that seed will say, okay, we could pop open and do these things. I've done that. I've done that in the past, where we've gone out in, late December, early January, and spread seed out in areas that we knew were um, kind of bare, and we might be throwing it right on top of the snow.
Yeah.
It's not the best way of going at it, but if you're trying to get a jump start on things, um, and with the freeze thaw cycles we get in our soil, if you could do it without the snow on top, it's better. But if you get it down before a snow and let the freeze thaw cycles kind of break that soil up and get those the seeds into the right depth, and then it snows on top of it, it insulates it, and then as soon as the weather breaks and things start warming up, you'll start seeing grass.
All right. That's just completely different strategy that I'm familiar with, John. But I believe you when you throw it on top of the snow, and it's like we just don't deal with that a lot here.
Yeah,
but,
a lot of times when you're going to end up wasting a lot of seed that way
yeah,
because you're not getting any soil to seed
yeah,
contact. They're at the top, and if there's any birds in the area, they're going to find that and they're going to peck at it and grab it up because that's the only food that they've got.
yeah.
Mice love it, but
But the other guy in Tennessee earlier was asking about coming back and seeding in the spring. So maybe
yeah.
that's a situation where he could, top it off in the springtime to
Yeah.
try to improve a little bit.
Most of the time I would suggest just waiting until spring, and then, like, again, I said before, seed it and then anticipate having to fill in more spots in
Yeah,
the fall.
I got you. All right. Honest Al says, "Hey guys, I get a good bit of chamber bitter this year in my centipede line. Is Celsius the best thing for that? Do y'all have chamber bitter, John? You know what that is?
We not too much.
We get a lot of it. It looks like a mimosa tree, if you know what that is. It's like a little baby mimosa tree is what it looks like. But we use Change Up is cheaper than Celsius as far as per 1,000 square feet. Maybe the jug of it might be more expensive, and Change Up is a very good product for centipede grass. Centipede is very tolerant of it, and it works really, really good on chamber bitter. So I would Celsius would also, I'm sure, have some effect on it, but to me, Change Up would be a better product if you had that available. What happens if the yearly max limit of herbicides is exceeded accidentally? The soil becomes sterile. We don't know. We don't break any of those rules, so we would have no idea. But John might have broke them one time. What do you think?
One time I probably did, but it's important to have like a rotation. So like for us, a lot of the products that we use in cool season grasses is 2,4-D. Well, there's only a certain amount of 2,4-D that's permissible in a season. It's not going to make the soil sterile, but like what you're going to more likely see is, instead of making your soil sterile, you're going to see there could be possible resistance to that, because instead of going up to a weed and then just kind of like, oh, I'm going to poison you, but I'm only going to give you a little bit, and you come back and you're like, yeah, dinged it, but it came back, and then you go, oh, I'm going to give you a little bit more, and you're not being effective when you're like, my philosophy is, when you go in to kill weeds, kill the weeds. So we're using the usually the max rate that the label allows to come in there, kill that weed, to help prevent it from getting any kind of resistance. Because if you have to change, and there's quite a few other formulations that you could change to that don't have 2,4-D in them, but if you start getting lawns that are resistant to it because somebody decided to water down their mix, and now the quantity of 2,4-D is not enough to kill them and these plants survive, they build that tolerance up, and then you're going to have a whole world of hurt, because you're going to either have to move to a different product that has a completely different mode of action or different classification, and that might not be such a big deal for like one lawn. But if you're running, okay, this is our basic loadout for, from an operator standpoint, it's very hard to like remember and pick and choose, even with all the notes, to say, Mr. Brown's lawn is resistant to this, we have to change to something else. It's not very economical to have to switch to a backpack that's specially designed just for that one lawn. So if you're going to kill weeds, go in there and kill it.
Yeah, like if it was a cockroach or something, and one of them survives, and then he goes and has babies, and they sort of develop resistance to particular.
Right. But to answer his question, you're not going to make the soil sterile, but just don't dump the concentrate on the ground. That's a big no-no. But
all right, I recently bought a 42-inch Toro time cutter. Maybe a dumb question, but I need to turn off the blades. Do I need to turn off the blades to change the mower deck height, or can I change the height while the blades are running? I don't see any huge ordeal with that. I'm pretty sure I've left my blades running when I drop. I might want to drop the deck, one more
Right.
notch without shutting the blades off. I do think sometimes I try to practice this when you engage the blades or disengage to
The throttle
decelerate the
down. Yeah.
engine. Yeah, like you don't want to just go wide open, so I go half throttle when I turn the blades on, and then I'll up. But as far as changing the deck height, I wouldn't think that would be a big deal.
No, like we were using stand-on units,
Okay.
and everything was hand controlled, for the deck control.
Yeah.
And if you got to go to raise the deck for whatever reason, we do that without shutting it down. So
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it either.
Hey, Jason, I'm wanting to start a small lawn business beginning 2022. I retired late 2020. Legally, I can only make around 1,600 per month. Our door hangers a good bit. How many should I start with? Uh,
Congratulations on retirement, Charlie.
yeah, that's right. You've made it further than we have. Um, the door hangers are not, the return is most likely not going to be great. Just to be honest with you, it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm not saying they don't work, but I think the more and more internet related our society get, like I did use door hangers, I guess 12 years ago and had pretty good return, but um, I mean, even in 12 years, things have changed a lot, and a lot less
Hmm.
people are looking on their door and their mailbox for service providers, and there's obviously searching on Google. So I would say, I know you're not trying to go big time because you're only trying to make 1,600 a month. You might even in that situation just be real selective on like a couple of neighborhoods and get in the get in the Facebook group for those neighborhoods, or,
Yep.
or maybe do if you want to just do door hangers in two neighborhoods and or direct mail. But like I said, I would if I was limited on how I was gonna make $1,600, then I'm thinking I'm not driving very far. I'm picking like three nice neighborhoods within 5 minutes of my house, and I'm gonna try to get how many ever customers you need to do
Yep.
that. But yeah, I mean, do you do any door hangers, John, or what?
We in where I'm at, surprisingly, we cannot solicit that way.
Okay,
So you have to check with. You
you're
also should check with your local
yeah, that's a good
code
point too.
enforcement, because with the town
Mm.
I live in, we're not allowed to put door hangers to solicit new clients that way. We use door hangers to say that, hey, we were here. These are the products we applied and things like
Okay,
that
so
for our
you
leave
can do
behind
that.
for our
You just
fertilizer. But for Charles, I would probably suggest, like you said, the Facebook groups are one
yeah,
good way, or sending postcards, which are
yeah,
very cheap, to neighborhoods that you want to work in. Because
yeah,
$1,600 a month is very easy to. I'm trying to think like what my average ticket is, and like how many people I would have. I think that's what, like 15 accounts maybe, if you're
yeah. I mean,
mowing.
it wouldn't be many, and you could if you got like a neighbor, you got somebody in a neighborhood, you could send a postcard to all the
Was
houses
that
around him, and just really try to get,
was that a
staff
week or a
members.
month
I think he said
for
1,600
16?
a month,
Yeah, 16.
1,600 per month.
You would depending on how much you charge. I mean, if you could really only need like 8 people, maybe, right?
He could work, yeah, one day a week. He can
Yeah,
just go mow on Thursdays and
yeah,
uh, get that done. All right, hello, gentlemen. Nice to put a face to John's name. See, people heard your name, and now they
yeah.
see your face. Question: I'm thinking about Dormant seeding a lawn near Springfield, Illinois this winter using a turf type tall fescue. Any suggestions or tips?
Well, it's amazing. We already kind of went over that one, but like I said, for successful dormant seeding, you have to wait until the ground is pretty much frozen, And again, the best results that I ever got was being able to get it down before a snowfall. So once that seed is in there, it's not going to germinate. The cold is going to keep it at bay until the spring temperatures warm it up, and then most of the time it gets caught in the little furrows from the freeze thaw cycle we have, and it works it into the grass naturally. So
Same guy. So Springfield, Illinois. Pre-emergent is spring. So what are you spraying, and what's your timing on a pre-emergent?
if he's going to do any kind of overseeding, he would not be able to put down, like prodiamine or dimension. He would have to put down a mesotrione product like tenacity would be one, because it wouldn't affect. You'd have to wait until those grass seeds are, getting established. They read the label, and they will tell you like when the window is open. So if you were to seed it with the pre-emergent, once like if you were to put traditionally, let's just say I was going to seed and put down mesotrione as a pre-emergent, I could do that the same day. But then once there's, with like Kentucky bluegrass, like there is a window where if I don't do it at the time of seeding, I have to wait 2 or 3 weeks before I could put it down again, because even though it's not going to affect the bluegrass as much, it still reduces the germination rate, and it could ding it. So it's a really tricky, it's a hat trick you got to play. You got to work with the weather. You got to make sure it's water.
We don't have many people overseed here in the fall, but so I had a customer. This was last year, and I've been doing his yard for years, but he's never overseed his yard in the winter or in the fall. And so I show up, in January or whatever, and his backyard is just super green where he had overseeded with ryegrass. In his front yard, and we spray spectacle in the fall, which is very effective at what it does. Well, anyway, his front yard had just a few nasty little sprig. It looked horrible. Where the ryegrass just did terrible germination. I was like, I don't know if I need to put, but like I said, he's like, he didn't tell me, he didn't know, obviously. But as if he'd have told me, I would have skipped that pre-emergent and just let him put his grass seed down and deal with it later.
Hey, just realized.
Let's see.
Just realized you got the same T-shirt. We both have that same T-shirt. You're wearing your yard book.
Oh shirt. Yeah. Yard book is a sponsor on my channel, and I love yard book. I've been. Let's see. It says established 2013. I think I started using yard book like early 2015. So
me too.
I've been with them for a while, but I think they're great. So
me too.
Let's see. I'm building a new house in Texas and trying to decide between Bermuda or Zoysia. Any suggestions? I mean, the differences are like I think Zoysia is a better looking grass, but I'll go pros and cons. So pros, the Bermuda is going to be more drought tolerant, is cheaper, spreads faster. So if you just want to like plug a little bit and let it spread, it's fine. You can drop a bomb on it and it won't hardly kill it, because it's just like almost impossible to kill unless you're just trying to. Zoysia, on the other hand, is more expensive, is not going to spread very fast. So you're going to need to sod it solid pretty much. It's not as drought tolerant. It is drought tolerant, but if you're not going to have irrigation, you might want to consider Bermuda unless you're willing to water your Zoysia. But the Zoysia is great at choking out weeds because it grows so thick. So anyway, I mean, like I said, I like Zoysia, but you just understand that there are some, it takes a little more care. It's more not as drought tolerant, not going to spread as fast, but it can be very beautiful. But Bermuda can be great too. It's just either one. I've got 4 acres, so I went with Bermuda because I needed to spread fast, and I needed to just
Right.
plug some and let it go. Or Zoysia, I might have died before it finished filling in my yard. All right, James Grudge, hey from Birmingham, been following you for a while, and get started on my own lawn care business. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. Thanks, y'all. You understood the question. I have customers asking to drop the last application. Yeah, and I messed up on this too. I've got a handful of people I'll let do like a reduced program or something. I've had a couple that want to like, hey, I don't know if I want to do the fall pre-emergent this year. I don't, I would just say, as you get more established and get plenty of customers, you can just sort of move on from those people and just like I had a situation recently where I'm trying to get my payments all situated. I'm trying to get everybody prepay only or credit card on file. Well, I mean that most of the people are totally cool with that. They say I totally understand. I don't blame you one bit. But there's a few that want to give pushback, and I'm just at a place where unless they're just like an old widow or something, I'm probably not gonna let them. I mean, and that's fine if they want to leave it. It's not a big deal. They can just choose another provider. So I think you have to sort of be the same way with your program. It's like, listen, if you want to skip your fall premier, that's great. I may not be the provider for you because we're going to do it. Because at the end of the day, and I believe this, I think I'm trying to think like, do people want a yard that's a little bit cheaper, or I think they really want like the best looking yard. If you just make great looking yards, your business word's going to get out. Like, hey, if you want your yard great, you're going to hire this guy. So you don't want some halfway looking yards out there because it hurts your business. Have you had any luck treating take all patch? You familiar with that one?
Oh yeah, we unfortunately that is where we're at. We didn't start getting take all patch until people started planting turf type tall fescue in our area. Once they started doing that, that's when that type of fungus started to come in, and it would just it just tears the lawn up completely. Like some other people they may call it pythium. They may there's a lot of people confuse certain. They're like, oh, it's brown patch, and it's like, no, this take all patch. Oh, this is pythium. It's like sometimes it's you clump them all into the same group, but their common denominator is certain types of grass are more susceptible to it than others. So if you're treating it and if you're trying to pre-treat and try to prevent it, you have to start your fungicide program early on, to where when just before the conditions that are right for that fungus to take a hold, that's when you need to start treatment for it. And like with us, we usually don't have many fungicide application people signing up for that add-on for their program, but there's certain people they really want a pristine lawn, and they don't even want to tolerate like dollar spot or anything like that. So they'll say, okay, we'll join up. We'll add the fungicide program. If you get those people and you could get it started before those symptoms or before those conditions are there, then a lot of times you could prevent it. Now, and we do like a 3-step program in that aspect during those months to prevent it from happening in the first place. Unfortunately, most people don't sign up for it, and then they end up having that problem, and there's really not much you could do. You could go in and you're not going to cure it at all. You're just trying to keep it from spreading out. And then in order for that to happen, you're going to have to use, a systemic penetrant to, it protects the plant from spreading it or from other plants from getting it. And at the same time, it goes through the plant's, xylem layer and then through the phloem to like actually cure it, And then the
Yeah.
damage that's left over, you really can't fix that. It's not going to grow back because it's destroyed the crowns and the roots. You're going to have to replant that. So unfortunately, that's, you know, depending on which stage you catch that disease in, that's where that's going to dictate how you treat it. Um,
Yeah.
whether it's going to
He's
be just
saying he put a lot of in a Zoysia lawn, about
hmm
40% involved. Yeah, I think the same situation. We have the same situation, John. It's like most of the time the customers call and it's sort of too late almost. It's like the
hmm
damage is done, and like I said, you could slow it down, or then you have to kind of tell them, well, it'll recover. It's just going to take some time, you know. So, but yeah, the ones that seem to have a problem with the fungus consistently, we try to sell them on a pre-emerge. I mean, on a fungicide in the fall.
hmm
JC says thank you. Jackie says good evening, guys. Let's see. Russell says, what are the ethics of cutting grass weeks and months after the grass stops growing? I understand most of the leaves in my area, they try to cut you around. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few, Russell, where they look like they're just basically running over just putting tire tracks on a yard that really is not doing anything. To me, well, I'll say, but it goes kind of both ways. I've had when I was mowing. I remember this one customer, and they wanted you there, 51 weeks out of the year at least, maybe 52. And it's like it didn't matter. I mean, it was like if 4 leaves fell from an oak tree in the yard, and they wanted you to run over and suck those 4 leaves, and they were willing to pay for it. So I mean, some customers just want that, and so. So, I mean, I wouldn't rush to conclusions and assume that the blame is necessarily on the lawn guy. But at the same time, I think, it gets, John, you maybe can comment on this. Like, let's say in the summer, y'all have a little bit of a drought period,
hmm
and the grass is not growing that much. Like, I don't know. It's kind of iffy because, you can't just the lawn people have to work and make money. They can't just take 2 months off. I mean, not profitably. At the same time, the customer doesn't want to pay for the grass didn't really grow into you. So I don't
Right.
know. Do you have any words of wisdom on those situations?
Well, yeah, I do. There's quite a few. Like in the summertime, most of the time, like if you're going to talk about our dormant season, if it gets too hot, our cool season grasses fade and they go dormant. Sometimes there's still stragglers and everything, but sometimes it's damaging to go on the lawn when it's that hot because then you'll end up leaving tire marks, in the heat in those cool season grasses.
Yes.
So, you know, back when we were primarily a mowing company, we always cut everything super high. So it would be more drought tolerant because those roots would get deeper into the ground. Uh, Even on the lawns that did not have irrigation, in the summertime, we'd have the mowers set at like 4 inches, and they would be okay, and we'd get through the summer, and we wouldn't really have to skip any. When it gets colder, like for us, there's definitely a time when it slams into it because it'll start snowing. So we don't have that problem too much. But there have been times in the past where usually we try to wrap everything up by Thanksgiving. That's kind of like where we're at because we only get about our season is, if you're talking about mowing, it's really only like 28 weeks,
Okay.
for the mowing season. And depending on where you are, you might get a couple more weeks. If you're further up north, you might get a couple less weeks. But if you're seeing guys that are out there and they're just running over stuff, like you said, I would be really kind of I wouldn't be too quick to throw ethical out there, but be like, oh, they're just doing it to do it. It's like, yeah, there might be a reason. Like at the end, like during this time of the season, we're cutting it even though it's not growing because we're trying to shave it down for the winter so that snow mold doesn't occur over the winter. because if you leave the grass too tall in the cool season, what ends up happening is you're inviting things like snow mold into your lawn. Also, you're talking about vermin like the voles, mice. These little critters will live right in that, not thatch area, but they if the grass is too tall and it's laying over, they'll run tunnels all throughout your lawn, and the damage gets repaired pretty quickly in the springtime. But you know, you don't really want to
Yeah.
make an environment that is bringing that type of thing into your lawn, because guess what? If they like the lawn and then it gets really cold, then they're like, wow, your house, I could feel there's warmth coming from this building. I'm going to try getting in there. Um, so yeah, you know, so it's
A
okay to
lot of
it's
thoughts.
okay to cut the lawn, even though it's not, even though it's not growing too much, but don't do it when everything starts freezing, and then you're just going to cause more damage.
Yeah. All right. This is the guy that was in the transition zone in Tennessee. He says, what soil temperature do you apply your pre-emergent? Do you apply it twice? Does pre-emergent prevent crabgrass only or most summer weeds? I mean, it's not just crabgrass. I mean, but that's definitely for us for sure. It's one of the big ones. If you don't keep the crabgrass out of your lawn, then it's just going to be terrible. It's going to look terrible for the
Right.
summer. But yeah, it definitely helps with a lot of other weeds too. With that being said, it doesn't prevent all weeds. Like some people think you just spray a pre-emergent, and why do I have any weeds in my yard ever again? It's like, well, it don't exactly work like that either. So
Right. Most of the pre-emergents on the market are for grassy type weeds like crabgrass and foxtail and things like that,
yeah,
barnyard grasses. They're not going to affect the broadleaf weeds too much, even though they have them on the label. Like if you look at, dithiopyr, like to mention, it will help, keep down certain broadleaf weeds, but it's not its specialty. It's really more targeted for those grassy type weeds to keep them from germinating and popping up. If you get them early enough, it can keep things like dandelions down. But most of the time, like especially in our area, you may not see them, but they've already popped up out of the ground. And once they've already emerged from the soil, then you have to switch to a post-emergent. You can't knock down a weed that has already sprouted with a pre-emergent.
yeah. As far as soil temperature, he's saying, is crabgrass, is it like 55 degrees?
55.
Okay, so we tell people like it's better to be early than late. I mean, for
Yeah.
us, and it's so like in Alabama, in your middle Tennessee, sometimes in February we'll have visible crabgrass. It's already germinated in February. Now, if we get a warm February, usually in my area it's around March, and I would think probably middle Tennessee you're looking at in March. So, but I'm saying don't try to get like 2 days before the germination. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it out here on like that perfect day. Just like go ahead and get it out a few weeks early. It's not the end of the world. It definitely better be too early than too late.
Right.
In most situations.
Because our area is so, we have our window is extremely tight, because sometimes still be snow on the ground,
Yeah.
and the ground will be frozen. We can't go out there and spray or apply a granular with it on there. You have to wait until that ground thaws first.
Okay.
So anytime, like once your soil temperatures are consistently above freezing, and you're between that thawed out period and 55, that's you got to get it down.
Yeah.
With prodiamine, a lot of guys, they'll put a split application down. So they'll put down a half rate the first time, and then they'll wait like a month, and then they'll put down the next application. That's if they have fair weather.
Yeah.
With us in where I'm at, especially because we're right up by the lake, we could still get lake effect snow coming in, a lot of times we'll use dimension, because even if you have a breakthrough with crabgrass, it'll still take care of that crabgrass up to like the second tiller.
Yeah, you got a little
So
reach back there.
right, so it's like it gives you a little bit more boost, where it's like, okay, we missed our perfect window, but we could still apply
Yeah.
this product to catch up.
Yeah, a lot of people here will do that. If they get a customer signs up late, I might go with Dimension in that situation. All right, we're about out of time. We're going to try to get a couple more here. I'm in Texas. Our invoice is a way to keep records for pesticide applications on residential and/or commercial properties. What's the best way to keep records? Our contracts with a customer is a good idea. And then this other guy, very similar question. Do you manually record treatments on paper, or do you use an app that records it for you? Some of this is going to be state to state what you're required to do. Like, for instance, in Alabama, we're not required to tell the customer we don't have to provide what we're spraying to the customer, but a lot of states do. Though we have to keep records in case, I have to know what I sprayed and when I sprayed and how much I sprayed and all that. What about in Indiana? What's the law there? And then how do you keep track of your chemicals that you're using?
Indiana, we have to let them know what was sprayed or
Okay.
what was put down, and so if any time we spray anything, if we're there has to be a document of it. Um, and using invoicing, our invoices don't have like the chemical on them.
Yeah.
We use a separate system that documents and records and tracks all of our chemicals that we have applied, and we also have to have either a leave behind for them, or we email. Like as soon as that application is done, we will email that record to them so that they have it.
Okay.
We also do a leave behind, so we're kind of covering all our bases. We're making sure that if they
Yeah.
didn't get the email for some reason, hey, there's a door hanger on the door when they come home and they go, we know that you were here, and we could say you sprayed your grub control today.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's asking what app do you use? Do you want to share as far as how you for the chemical
yeah. I
records?
mean, look at Jason's shirt.
Yeah, Yardbook does
Yeah.
have a chemical apps. Yeah, and some of these softwares are working. They're working hard to get the chemical stuff
Hmm.
added in there. So,
Yardbook.
go ahead.
Once you dial in Yardbook, it works very well. Uh, some people have trouble with it, but it's not as complicated as a lot to make it out to be. Another good company is Spray.io. Spray.io. That's another company that they just all they do is spray recording.
Yeah,
So uh, I don't mean to plug anybody that conflict of interest or anything, but
oh,
anyway,
what height would you mow St. Augustine grass at during the winter months? We have very little St. Augustine here, but I do have a little bit in my house. I mow mine like 4 inches or something. I mean, keep mine tall. I don't know. In the winter, we don't. I'm not really mowing it in the winter, but I think St. Augustine does better when you mow it tall. And last question: how do you charge for leaf removal?
oh,
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question in the sense of like I've lived in places where you just get it to the curb and the city comes by and takes care of the rest of it. But
hmm
there's other places where you gotta haul it all off yourself and pay to dispose of it. Um, and then some people want to like immaculate lawn. There's no leaves, and others just get out there and mulch them all up and kind of blow them around a little bit, and it looks better than
yeah.
it used to. So I mean, you obviously got to figure out how much time is involved and what kind of level of leaf removal, and not all leaf removal jobs are the same. Is this like I'm coming out every 2 weeks until your leaves quit falling, or are you going to call me when every leaf is falling and they're 4 foot deep and I almost lost my lawnmower in the pile? So
That literally almost happened to me one year, where there were so many leaves that piled up that the it started a fire on the machine because
I did that on a Walker mower. Got on the muffler and it caught the thing on fire.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a small fire; it was a big one. It almost caught the truck on fire too. Luckily, we had fire extinguishers, and we just were able to put it out. But
yeah,
yeah,
I had to grab a bucket of hand wipes to put it out.
Oh man!
Like I was borrowing my friend's vehicle, and I opened up the back of his like Suburban or something. He had some like hand wipes or something, but it was a small fire. So anyway, he's saying
if you have to,
again, this is the final question. If you have to remove them from the property,
yeah. So that in the shortest answer I could give is if you have to remove everything, you have to figure out what your production rate is. And it's hard if you're just starting out, that's kind of a hard thing to do because you don't have the experience to know how long it's going to take you. Every job that we do, we log in, like we don't do leaf removal anymore, but every job that we do, we log in and out, we track the time. And it's not for it's not for timesheets for paying the employees or anything. What it's for is to gather data so that we know that if we have a similar job down the road, that this is what it's going to take to time wise. Like, okay, we had 2 or 3 guys on this job. Let's say it's leaf removal. We had 2 or 3 guys on that job. It was this much square footage. They had like 5 oak trees, and the leaves were 3 feet deep. What equipment did we have? Did we have blowers? Did we have a debris loader? Did we have baggers on the mowers? Did we have suction? Did we just have a suction line? What did we have? Did we just have rakes and a hand blower? All those things come into play. So really, the more mechanized you are, the faster and more efficient you can do it. If you've got a team of guys where they all have backpack blowers, you could blow out those landscape beds very quickly. So it's a very complicated, it's a very complex question to ask, and really it's going to be based on what your production rates are. And okay, once you get that stuff all loaded in the truck and everything, do you have to drive 5 miles to go to the dump, or do you have to go to the next state? Because in where I'm at in Indiana, there are no dumps. We can't just roll up and go to a dump. I have to if when I was doing this, I had to cross the border into Illinois to a farm where the farmer would take the debris from us. And depending on how he felt, that's what you would get charged that day. So sometimes you get them on a good day, it'd be $40, and then other times it's like it's going to be, you've got a truck full, and I know I charged you $40 last week, but it's going to be $120 today.
Oh man, that's terrible. Well, yeah, I know people make some money cleaning leaves up, though. I mean, it can be very profitable. This I said last question. He had posted this. Are yearly contracts good to have with customers? I mean, there's pros and cons. I don't do contracts with my residential customers, but it runs year round for us. I mean, it's kind of like we just keep going until if there was like a stopping and starting point, I might renew it. Do you renew yours like with something written, or how does it work with you, John?
Like we don't have like hard contracts. What we have is just like maybe service agreements where they sign up, and we anticipate that they're going to go through it. Like this time of year right now, the only thing we're doing is we're sending out like kind of a feeler notice, like, hey, we're sending out reviews to find out, we're towards the end of the season. We want to try to get reviews. We're also trying to just get an idea of like, are you happy with us? Okay, do you expect to see us in the springtime? And it's really not anything. Some states are different, like New York, you have to have contracts enabled. Some states you don't have to, but it really all depends on your locality, where you're at, whether you have to have a contract in place.
But that brings us to the end of the show. We ran a little bit over, but enjoyed the conversation for sure. John, really appreciate you being on, and you definitely added to the knowledge base here that we were able to answer some questions. So,
well, thanks, Jason.
Really appreciate it. John, remind we should mention Paul Jameson's a friend of both of ours, and
Yeah.
Paul's been on here with me before. And Green Industry Podcast is his. If you look for a resource, there's some other ones. A lot of good lawn care podcasts out there. And Paul has greenindustrypodcast.com as his website. He has some of our resources available on there. So support Paul. And I've got his book on the shelf over here. Actually got both his books on the shelf.
I do
I've
too.
listened to the audio version of it. I did audio on the first one. I haven't listened to the audio on the second one yet, but I want to do that. So, all right, John, appreciate it. Good to see you again, and we will hopefully catch you at some point in the future.
Well, are you going to? Are you heading up to Michigan this weekend, or?
No, is that this coming? I thought
I
was thinking in my mind it was this past weekend, but
it's this upcoming weekend.
Weekend.
Yeah.
No, I went the first year to Brian's event, but I'm not going this year. But I would like to get back up there. That was my one and only trip to Michigan I've ever done. But I know Brian is very professional. How he puts it'll be top notch the way he puts things together, and a lot of energy. And when I went, we had a great time. It was freezing though. I just can't.
It wasn't that cold. I was there.
I don't have like battery powered jackets and all that stuff like you
I don't either.
Do.
I'm just a warm guy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, it was 71 here today, so we're doing okay.
Yeah. So, well, yeah.
All right, John. Good talking with you. Appreciate you being on.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you very much.
All right. See y'all later. Bye.